Do you think there's a country better than England at bullying?
I hope not.
No, not at all. I think there's these pages where they do little reels or TikToks about the difference between English and American people, and say British men just call each other cunts like it's nothing.
Yeah, I saw that. That was that thing on Reddit, wasn't it? Where it was like, "What's your favorite English swear word?" And this guy was like, "When I was in England, I would like drop a fork and be like." Oh, you cunt! I've dropped a fork. I need to get another one now. But then I did it. He said I did it in front of I did it in front of a load of Americans, and they looked at me like I'd stabbed a baby.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus Christ. Oh man, Jesus wept. Episode 103 of Below the Belt. Yeah, that'll be the start. It's been a little bit quiet, but we've just had a big show, on foreign soil, Al.
Fucking hell. Don't you start.
I got myself all confused about Gibraltar last week. I'm sorry about that. Joined once again by Alex from Bristol and Felonious Filth. T, how are you, bud?
Hello. Not bad. Watched the boxing, so I feel like I'm prepared this time.
like a real boxing journalist.
A real hardcore fan. We'll talk about minimum weight women fights and stuff like that now.
Yeah. It's all about those 2-minute YouTube highlights videos. That's the future. Like,
oh man, yeah.
Watching full fights is for suckers.
So what's the point, mate?
Just watch the highlights and go to bed.
There's a website that condenses books into like 12 pages. Always got to do that with boxing. Right. There's a niche there, like 1 minute TikTok video and a fight. Condense it all in a minute.
That's true.
In the 15 rounders, like back in the 70s. Just do that.
I'm sure there's some pretty large copyright problems with that, but it's worth a shot, yeah.
At 1.5 speed, then it won't count.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It says a lot. It says a lot about It says a lot about the concentration levels of the modern man and woman and non-binary that we have to watch boxing in like small highlights, kind of condensed ways in order to consume it, just because there's so much of it out there.
I'm not one. I've never had it. I think so. I'm 34 now, so I've like grown up with this kind of tech, with this tech boom, I guess.
Yeah.
Like really. I've got my Kindle here, right? Sunday, I had nothing to do, right? Literally zero to do, right?
Mm.
I was like, I've got no excuse not to read the 6 or 7 books that are on there, right? I led down. I thought, right, here we go. So, put an Instagram story about the fact that I was about to read. Right?
I saw that.
I must have read about 3 chapters in about an hour. Ooh. And it's not a taxing book, as you'll be surprised to know, right? And then put Peep Show back on, which I've watched 4,000 times. So I've got no... I can't do it. And it's really depressing that I have no attention span whatsoever. And I blame Elon Musk and the other visionaries, Steve Jobs.
I think I'd blame it on him.
I would blame it on Steve Jobs. Massive part of it. Smartphones have absolutely killed our concentration. They're terrible. They're terrible for it. But one thing we did concentrate on, I hope, for all 4 rounds was Dylan Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin for the interim WBC heavyweight title. Al, I'm going to give you the opportunity here to
say I was right.
So I want you to say how right you were, and I want you to praise Dylan. I want you to tell us how great he was.
I said 4th round. I said he'd knock him out in the 4th round.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Povetkin didn't look right from the start. Legs were all over the shop. He's had COVID. I think that's that was always going to play some type of factor. But he looked, just very unsure of himself. Which, for someone with his experience and career, you think that's the last thing that you think. You know what you can do and know what you can't do. And you box that game plan, but he looked almost apprehensive in terms of, do you know what? I have to try and drag him into the 6th, 7th round to be able to make my plan work. And then obviously I thought Dylan came out very aggressively, and was putting it on him. And I think maybe that surprised him a bit. I don't know. I'm sure it's probably just a conditioning thing, but yeah, his legs didn't look right from the start. And it looked really what the first fight should have been for Dylan. And he got the job done. And you could see before the fight, he was, Whyte was hyped up, his ring walk, he's jumping up and down. Usually we see a little bit more, he's not quite as animated as that. And yeah, I was really impressed. He went out and got the job done. And you look at the names on Whyte's resume, it's he doesn't duck away from these challenges. And this was essentially his career on the line. There was no doubt about it. What do you do from now? It's still very unlikely to get a title shot now. The only decent thing that we can hope really for him, where we'll all be like, yes, that's what we want to see, is if he can get a fight with Wilder. And Wilder himself has told him that he'll never give him that fight. All right, Wilder was still champ at that time. But I think that would be very difficult to make. And so now he's kind of just back to square one. He's going to have to wait a year at least, before he can actually try and finish the job, so to speak. But yeah, I did think he'd get him out of there early, and I was proved right again.
T, what did you think?
The other time was Sam Eggington against Frankie Gavin, so it was.
God, they both beat shot fighters as well. I think as Alex nailed it, I don't think Povetkin looked right at all. Not even just unsure of himself, just his balance. Normally, I think he got knocked down in the previous couple of fights, but he just looked like every time Whyte hit him, he just looked like he didn't know where he was. I think, obviously people have COVID and they recover, but maybe this had a psychological effect. There's long-term effects of COVID that we probably won't know until 10, 15 years from now. And I just don't know if he had faith in himself to take Dillian to the later rounds. One thing about this fight was Dillian changed trainers again. So maybe it helped him, the fight being short. Maybe if he went into deeper rounds and instructions were out more paramount, maybe it might have gone a bit differently. But yeah, Povetkin did look a bit weird, but you've got to give credit for Dillian Whyte to exercise that ghost, because there's all sorts of people laughing at him. And I think he needed to prove a point, and he did. But he's no further than he was 6 months ago prior to the fight now, because it looks, for all intents and purposes, that Joshua and Fury's going to get made.
Yeah. And obviously, we all, it makes sense for, Joshua Fury to be made. It's for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. That's what we want. We all want unifications. Because Dylan Whyte's kind of just on the outside looking in, and he'll kind of have to. And he can't complain too much because he was knocked out a fight ago. So, can't complain too much. Al, what did you think about? Did you notice any differences? T noted the change of trainer. I quite liked their dialogue in the corner. I don't know if you noticed that. I quite liked that. What did you think about Dylan's performance? Any differences that you noticed?
The only thing that I don't know whether it was a difference, but it's certainly something I noticed more was he would. He wasn't looking to counter every shot that Povetkin managed to fire off. He would take a step and then step back and then step back into not into range, but he would take a step back, kind of judge that distance again, and then step back in and then start the process again to early on. That started to wane away a little bit more as he became more confident and probably started to know that look, I've got this geezer. But yeah, I thought there was a little bit of, and it wasn't trepidation or like playing it safe. It was playing it smart, I think. I don't know whether that was a massive difference from what Dylan Whyte's done before. It certainly was a difference from the last Povetkin fight. And so it should be, because you have to look at what Povetkin did to him, one shot or not, and you have to make sure that you're not put in that position again. And I felt that's what he did. But yeah, I also, the dialogue in there, like, you don't tend to hear that much back from Whyte. Usually, like you didn't hear that much back with Tibbs, and some of the previous guys, but he, that might be because it's new and they're still kind of working each other out, and but I thought it was good, and hopefully that's I always want a boxer to stick with a trainer for a decent amount of time. I'm not against people changing trainers even before big fights. I'm not massively against that. I'm not one of these people that thinks you should, sticking with someone that knows you when you go into these big fights. I think you do it per stage of your career of what you need and when. But I would like him to kind of sit and stay around for a little bit now. Obviously Dave Caldwell was involved last time as well, and obviously he wasn't anywhere to be seen this time, I don't think, was he? So it's funny. We
know how much you love Dave as well.
I do love Dave Caldwell.
Howard Knight, he's experienced guy. Kind of the headline from his career is that he'd been with Lennox Lewis. Do you think that maybe Whyte, because he, like you've said before, like he's changed trainer a lot. Do you think he needed like someone like Knight, who's been around one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, to perhaps get the best out of him?
On paper, it absolutely makes sense. And the way the fight panned out, the dialogue between the corner, it's a good move. Howard Knight is very, bombastic, speaks well with the press, presents himself well. It's like a very sensible move. I think all three of us would hope that he's not going to change trainer again, because it looks a good combination. But it was a one-sided fight. If it's a one-sided fight, it's easy for a corner to look good. So, I mean, I was impressed with the corner. I really thought he was just going to go long range and just get the win. But he wasn't fucking about, a fair play to him, because a lot of those shots from Povetkin didn't miss him by much. And if they caught him, it could have been the same result again. So fair play to Dillian Whyte for that.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I noticed, Alex, I don't know if you noticed it, I thought he really got behind his jab more, Whyte. I thought he really established his jab well. I thought his jab was strong. And I think Povetkin really, really struggled to get past his jab. I think it really, really bothered him, which is another Lennox Lewis kind of trait. Although, Manny Stewart was the chief trainer for Lennox Lewis, it's still something you would have picked up from. And do you know what? Thinking about it, a lot of Manuel Stewart's successes at heavyweights, Vlad Klitschko as well, it was all about the base of having a strong jab, and I think that was apparent with Whyte on Saturday that he was getting behind the jab. But I would say in hindsight that this was almost a perfect fight, Al, for Whyte to start with a new trainer, because, like you said, Povetkin looked horrible, didn't he? He looked really, really bad. He'd been in hospital twice with COVID. He went to hospital, then came out, trained for a bit, and like, I am fucked. I'm going back to hospital. So he really, really wasn't in a good way. But in hindsight, it was actually a perfect fight for Whyte. He gets revenge, he makes a few quid, and he gets one easy fight with his new trainer. With all that in mind, where do you think he does go next?
I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, let's look at the options. What can he do? So Joshua and Fury are gone and put aside, right? So who can he fight? So I saw like Rob Tebbett put up his kind of top 10 heavyweights, at the moment, and you had Andy Ruiz. So the other people that you could see him fighting, just in theory, would be up and around that sort of level, would be Andy Ruiz Jr., Deontay Wilder, Usyk. Because Usyk's not going to be able to do any of those, not going to go for those, be able to go for those titles now anyway. So what can make some money in the UK? Dillian Whyte puts bums on seats, but it's got to be there's got to be someone else to it. Usyk, I think, has got that. I think with a UK market is still able to do well. Obviously, Andy Ruiz Jr. would be good. Eddie Hearn's talked about he wants to box Dillian in America next, so the likelihood would be, I'm sure Wilder is probably the main aim, but I could see Andy Ruiz. I mean, really, other than that, you know, if they are saying that they want to box him in America next, then who would it? And it was going to be, and Dillian follows that path of it being a relatively meaningful fight. You know, then it's only going to be with runs, or they could just box him in America for the meantime, and it's, you know, a middle of the road, you know, nothingness kind of welcome to America. You know, Dillian Whyte trying to expose a little bit more on that side of things. Essentially, what Joshua Ruiz was meant to be, or you know. So I don't know. It's going to be one of those things. I hope he takes a bit of a break now because he's essentially trained for a year non-stop now.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see him again in maybe July in America against probably someone middle of the road.
Yeah. I did see that Eddie Hearn and Whyte, they were doing the interview. I can't remember if it was straight after the fight or if it was something with one of the other press guys, but they said something along the lines of, I'm going to have some time off and I want an easy fight next, was what Whyte said.
I did hear him say that, yeah.
Yeah, he said, I want an easy fight next and I want to make some money. So, which I could kind of, do you think that's like the right move, T, that Whyte goes to America, boxes on a world championship undercard, and boxes, I don't know, a Charles Martin, who's ranked number 12 in the WBC, or
Brazil, someone like that.
Yeah, Brazil. I think Brazil's someone like. Did you think that's the right move, T? Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, he's been very toughly matched for the last few years. I mean, the two fights of Chisora, which weren't on paper, looking back at it now, tough fights for him. But I wouldn't be against him having an easier fight. I mean, the only options for him are Ruiz and Wilder. The wild card could be Louis Ortiz, could be one. Who's meant to fight before but didn't fight right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, he's got no options now with the two main guys fighting each other. Everyone's got to fight everyone. I'd be amazed if he took on Usyk though. That fight is just all wrong for him, and it could make himself look very silly.
Michael Hunter.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
And he fighting Hergovich.
Yes, you're right. Michael Hunter is fighting Hergovich.
Yeah, but I just mean in terms of that side of things, and really, you look at what Whyte's done over. So he's had, Chisora twice, Parker, Oscar Rivas, Povetkin twice. It's no. I don't think anyone would judge him having like I said, a Michael Hunter, a Brazil, a Martin or whatever in America, and then he waits and sees what happens. Say after this Joshua Fury fight, say someone gets, spanked, by 12 rounds or gets knocked out in 2. It might, that second fight might not even happen. We know Fury is combustible at times. So who knows, so you've got to make sure I don't think he'll run the risk again of being in the position he's been in just now.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think, T corrected us, thankfully, and said about Hunter fighting Hergovich, which I think...
Ruiz is fighting Arreola as well.
Yep. Yes, you're right. Ruiz is fighting Arreola, but Arreola is fucking terrible. Ruiz will stop him by halfway. He's shot to bits.
How much is that pay-per-view, by the way? Isn't it like
fucking $80? Yeah.
I know we moan, but Jesus Christ.
I know. What is that in quid? Like 45 quid? Something like that?
And the rest. $80 is probably about 60 quid.
Yeah, that's about right.
60 quid to watch Andy Ruiz fight Chris Arreola. And Chris Arreola has not been has not even been a contender since fucking 2011 or something. Like, he's not been... Yeah, that's a bad fight. But if I feel sorry for the Americans, I don't know how we'll see it. I don't particularly care. To be honest, I'm not going to be fucking staying up to watch that, even if it's on DAZN. Like, no, thank you. But yeah, Hunter's fighting Hergovich, and the skeptic in me, Al, has to say that kind of suits Dylan, because Whyte, he doesn't like a boxer mover, does he? Doesn't like boxing those kind of guys, those guys that are light on their feet, like, a Louis Ortiz, someone that's got some nice movement. He'd rather fight someone that's going to come straight towards you and have it with you. He likes that style of fight. I don't think he wants to fight a Michael Hunter. I was surprised that Michael Hunter didn't get the fight before Povetkin did, because arguably he beat Povetkin over in Saudi on the Joshua Ruiz undercard. So I think that suits Whyte. I think Whyte might end up fighting Charles Martin or something like that.
The difference will be, it depends on whether they do box him in America. If they decide to box him here, I mean, there's, you could make up any old stuff. You could even do Joe Joyce, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's again, because, like T said, because of what's happened with Fury and Joshua, and now the guys are going to have to play with they're going to have to sit there and play Lego for a year.
Yeah, that's it, and it's kind of stick or twist, isn't it? It's like, does Dylan just tick over? Does he just tick over and just have some kind of middle of the road kind of fights, a Charles Martin or somebody over here? Or does he think, no, bollocks, I'm going to keep having hard fights?
I think he can see in even the post-match interview that I think he needs an easier fight. I mean, as I said, it's one of those ones where it's a bit after time-ish, where it's a good win against Povetkin, but Povetkin looks shit. Chisora's lost 10 times, as I said in the podcast.
Yeah,
Joseph Parker didn't bother fighting until the last 2-3 rounds against him, and Rivas is still an unknown quantity. So I guess if you've got that mentality, then maybe you should fight a Ruiz or Wilder. But I think he just needs to stay busy. I think what we've learned, and I think boxing has kind of recalibrated itself during COVID, in that some people can just wait and just be inactive, or some people can just get busy. Really, he's had. How much pay-per-views in a row has he had now, Dillian Whyte?
Last two, Wack was on pay-per-view, Rivas was on pay-per-view, Chisora 2 was on pay-per-view, Parker was on pay-per-view. Was Lucas Brown? I think Lucas Brown was the last one that wasn't on pay-per-view, and that was in 2018.
But, I mean, if he's not got that much of an ego about him and just fights on an undercard in the US, then fair fucks to him.
Yeah.
It's got to be. You can't be expecting to fight. I don't know. I mean, just go down this bloody list. Caballero expected to be pay-per-view. It can't happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. Did you see, Al, that Oscar T just mentioned Oscar Rivas? Did you see that he's fighting for the Bridgerweight title?
No, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. I saw it today. He's fighting Bryant Jennings for the Bridgerweight title.
Wow.
What do you feel about this Bridgerweight?
Before.
I don't massively see is it just a question of being able to give, or it's almost like like international football when they used to have the B-sides?
Yeah.
For the people that can't get in that top 10.
Fuck, you just reminded me of B-sides. It's like where Matt Letizia used to play, isn't it? England B.
Yeah,
Chris Armstrong, did he get a cap for England B? Can't remember. I think
Chris Armstrong played for Wales, I think.
Did he? Okay.
He's Welsh, from Wrexham.
Okay. I guess for another time.
I think you get to a point where you got like 6'9" heavyweights. It's like the super heavies in the Olympics, isn't it? So I think it'll take a few years of the Bridgerweight thing to take off. Coley's talked about doing a Bridgerweight thing and then going to heavy. So it's a bit peculiar that Rivas would do that, but because the heavyweight division's in a state of stasis with with Joshua and Fury fighting each other, then why not?
Yep.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm not sure about it. We'll see how it goes, but I actually quite like the WBC because they like trying this shit. They'll do it. They're the guys that they'll try things. They tried the open scoring where the scores would get announced every 4 rounds. They were the first organization to go to 12 rounds from 15. Like, they're the organization they're doing the VADA testing, aren't they? If you want a WBC title shot, you have to do VADA testing. Like, they're the organization. The IBF do that thing with the 10 pounds second day weigh-in or whatever.
Yeah, rehydration.
Yeah, that. But the WBC, they tend to be like the organization that will try this kind of stuff. And you know what? If If it doesn't get any interest or it's shit, then they'll probably bin it off and fair enough. But I rate them for trying it, even if I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair as well. What did we think about? It wasn't the chief support, which is kind of a shame. With Wardley Molina was the chief support, which whatever. But British title, Cheeseman, Metcalf. That was a fucking hell of a fight, wasn't it, Al?
British title delivers again, man. Fucking love British title fights.
Yeah.
It was great. I've got so much time for Ted Cheeseman because he, he was part of that kind of, Matchroom have they almost have these divisions of fighters, right? And then there's these fighters like him, Anthony Fowler, and a few others, around that, maybe even Joe Cordina, obviously been inactive, but, around those types of ones, which are, you seem to just keep seeing them in these fights and next gen shows, and you're waiting for them to kick on and go from there. And obviously Cheeseman went up to, to the Garcia fight, and obviously it didn't come off for him. And it's, but he's kept going, so obviously he lost to Garcia, then obviously the draw with Conway, and then losing to Fitzgerald. Then obviously winning the Eggington fight, which was another fight of the year contender, but he hasn't won by a TKO since 2018.
Wow.
At York Hall. So I was just really pleased for him. He's an honest guy. Metcalf is decent enough. And it was great. Like, I think David Diamante said afterwards, like, you could have put that fight in black and white and watched it in the 50s, and it would have looked and it would have looked at home. And he's right. It was it was great. Those are the type of things that you should be having. I'd rather more of those on these types of cards than having not so much. I mean, the Fabio Wardley's thing, obviously, because with Dillian and that type of stuff. But when you start seeing just some of the names that are just brought on just for the sake of it. Like Anthony Fowler's another one, which I'm sure is a perfectly, he's making his way through his career and stuff. But every time there's no interest in him, and I don't want people to stagnate. I want them to see these steps quicker now, particularly with these times. And I feel like Cheeseman's done that. All right, at different levels and stuff. No one's saying that he's doing anything massively world breaking at the minute, but he's had demons to overcome and he's done them. So I was really pleased for him, and the finish was great. Ian John Lewis again, I thought I was like, deal, just wave it off.
Just wave it off
again. Nowhere near close enough to the fight through bits of it. Even even Paul Smith was saying it. Like, the ref needs to be closer here because some of this stuff. So obviously in the third round was. He was struggling then. Metcalf, and he's tough. You can't take that away from him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a great fight, and I hope now that Metcalf will have other opportunities with Matchroom, I'm sure, and he'll provide entertainment at that kind of mid card range. But Cheeseman now, now it's the time to go in. But he's had these wars, so many wars now. He's only 25,
I think 25, 26, I think.
Yeah, he's 25, and he's had, Metcalf, Eggington, Fitzgerald, all wars, Conway as well. And so I worry about that slightly, in terms of just his longevity. But yeah, I hope he takes that next step now and manages to bridge that gap, which he's failed at before.
I'm actually really impressed, Al, that you knew that Cheeseman, his last stoppage was in 2018. Some would say that it's because you're box wrecking it. I don't think that's true at all. I think
I knew that his last one was Conway, but I didn't know when it was. I had to check the date.
You've ruined it now, but I was gonna say it was because you remember it because we were there. It wasn't. And I was holding my little electric fan, and we was passing that back and forth.
Shit, yeah, I remember. Yeah, God, do you know what? I'd miss it so much though. But York Hall is when it's like that. It's just gross. I've never smelt so much sweat and urine and domestic abuse in my entire life.
Oh my god, yeah, it is. It's a vile place, but
I love it.
But we love it. Yeah, you've taken away
like that night because I got there early. And I sat outside on the I was sat on a wall. I had a bottle of water and was just sat on a wall waiting for you lot. And Joshua Batsy walked past, sat and had a chat with him outside York Hall for like 10 minutes. You know, it's one of those places where it does just kind of level things out for people, I think, with fighters, and I think fighters feel that as well. So I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and then also, you know, you've got to hope that, you know, the people like the Goodwin Promotions and Steve Goodwin and people like that of this world that are able to come back as soon as possible to come and make sure that those places have a heartbeat.
I just wanted to ask you just before we move on. Al, do you think that Cheeseman should kind of stay at domestic level? Do you think that's like his level and that's where he should stay? I kind of think that he should.
Why though?
Because he's not good enough.
Yeah, but I don't know. It depends on the money, doesn't it? I mean, if there's money to be made, like Fitzgerald needs to sort himself out and get back on the horse before we see that again.
Yeah.
So there's been an announcement with regards to that, by the way.
Has there? What was that?
Well, he's on the road back now. So I guess he's over all his demons. So
yeah,
good for him.
So I don't know. I mean, things are so different at the minute. I would say you just take it whatever opportunity you can, and he's just got to try and make as much money as possible. I'm not sure he can do that domestically. So it's tricky. I don't see the point. I mean, personally, you know, he's had these domestic wars. You know, is he going to get any more well known? Probably not. So where's the money? The money will be on a chief support on a big undercard fighting for something serious, you know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I just noticed that his old nemesis Sergio Garcia has moved up to 160 now, or his last couple of fights have been at 160. So maybe that's him, and maybe Cheeseman could get a European title shot, something like that. But yeah, moving on. Weird thing, T, the other day that you kind of pointed out to me. Terence Crawford and we said in the last podcast he's being a bit weird, but he said that Canelo is kind of avoiding black fighters, and he cited Jamal Charlo and Demetrius Andrade as like examples of that. What did you think of that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, as I said, Crawford's saying some very weird things. It's impossible to fight everyone. I don't think anyone would hold it against Canelo for not fighting Andrade. Andrade's been avoided by loads of different people because he's impossible to look good against. As for Jamal Charlo, I mean, I haven't got box rec in front of me, but I don't think his best win would be enough to get the attention of Canelo. Although I guess Yildirim is a counter to that argument, but I don't see what's in it for Canelo fighting a Charlo when he can just get Saunders, get another belt, Yildirim, mandatory, Smith, belt, Kovalev belt. It's not like Lady Gaga, you know what I mean? Wednesday night, drink. Wednesday evening, drink. You know, I mean, Canelo is just ticking boxes left, right, and centre. I mean, it's a very peculiar thing for Crawford to say. But Crawford's got his own issues of saying that he spends fighters off the table. And he laughed off Ortiz, so boxing's weird and Crawford's weird, very weird.
Yeah.
Because like Canelo, he'd beat everyone. He has to do it.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Al? It kind of strikes me as like glass that thing about glass houses and stones and all of that.
I think it's just talking for talking's sake. Yeah. Personally, I think if that was genuinely an issue, then I think it would be more widely shared. Again, like T says, Crawford is on, and it's a shame because I love him, and he should be doing what Canelo's doing in terms of, like I say, ticking boxes and getting shit done. And Spence is one of those boxes, regardless of where the politics are and all the rest of it. Spence is his biggest box that has no tick in it. he should be. He really should be focused on that. And I don't know what his plans are next. Even Crawford. What do we see Crawford doing in the next 18 months? Because it just seems that it's so, again, other stuff tied up, but he's either limiting his own options, and then when you do that, your options become limited throughout, by no choice of your own eventually. And I just don't want that to happen for someone as talented as him.
Yeah, I think it's. I did see something that I think they're going to announce something for Crawford soon. Might be Sean Porter.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Sean Porter makes the most sense because I kind of look at like Sean Porter as like the gateway to the elite. Like if you beat Sean Porter, you're an elite fighter. Like,
I fucking love Sean Porter.
He's quality. He's quality. Yeah.
Only because you met him that night at the Copper Box, isn't it, Al?
He was very complimentary, yeah. But he's also like, he reminds me of the type of footballer I like. Just a horrible little dog in midfield that just never stops. He's always at your ankles, pinching you, pulling your armpit hair at corners. I love it.
That's exactly what he is as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I actually don't enjoy his style of fighting. Like he's always in fun fights, always exciting, but like watching him as like a boxing fan, I think I hate your style. Like
I'm the opposite. I'm like, that's how I want to fight. I want to fight like that. I don't care if I lose.
Right.
My honor is intact.
Yeah. And I'm the guy that loves fucking Cuban southpaws, and they always let me down. So I don't know why I should turn my nose up at Sean Porter. He's a quality fighter, so that would be really good for Crawford next. Really, if he was to fight somebody good. And then I also saw Andrade was moving up to 168, which I don't quite understand, to be honest. Any thoughts on that, T, about Andrade potentially moving up to 168?
Well, he's with Matchroom or Slash his own, so. He can fight Canelo. He can fight, Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders will likely be done by the time he's up there. But in terms of who he's managed by, it makes the most sense for him to make that jump. His style, I don't know how his style will convert to going 8 pounds up in weight. Maybe he goes to 168 and turns into Ernie Shavers. I don't see it myself. But he's been at 160 and 154 for a long time, so. No, it makes sense him moving up, but I don't know what impact he'll make there. It just depends on what Canelo does, and I don't see Canelo rushing to fight Andrade, which will disappoint Crawford.
Yeah. I don't think Canelo's particularly bothered about fighting Andrade. He's fighting Billy Joe Saunders, who's just as fucking awkward. I think Andrade's best win is, Brian Rose still? Like, he's not in a place to talk about fighters like Canelo, really. And Crawford's best win is Postol still. So again, another one not really in a position to talk about, Canelo Alvarez, best fighter in the world. But, it all makes for good fun and games. Let's quickly head to this weekend. Jamal Herring against Carl Frampton, Al. Perhaps the nicest, friendliest world title fight you ever hear about.
Yeah.
Don't know if I'm a fan.
On IFL as well.
Yeah, on IFL. Fucking Cougs has done it, hasn't he? He's finally got himself a world title fight on his channel. Fair play.
Again, it's mad times, man. Like, things have we've had issues with that fight, and it's a question of just getting shit done. So I've got respect for him on that aspect of it. I don't really know what to expect from Carl Frampton. I don't know whether the delay and the inactivity and what the Warrington fight, and I genuinely don't know what Carl Frampton has left. And I don't mean that derogatory. I don't mean in terms of what's he got left as in nothing. I honestly I think it's a real unknown quantity as to where a fighter like him will be. Obviously, we know that he has his basics and his kind of his core talents in terms of his style will always be there. It's whether they are effective enough now at any type of level. I hope so, because I'm a big Carl Frampton fan, and I hope he does it. But I honestly and if this was in normal times, I would be very confident. But I don't know. I just worry about Frampton. I worry that the drop off. Like we talked last week about what we'll see in fighters, who have been in activity and getting towards the end of their career. But the drop off now, because of the situation that we're in, with overtraining and delays and all the rest of it, I think the drop offs will be very, very sharp if they occur. If they don't occur, then that's great. But if they do, I don't think it will be like 10%, 15%. It could be it's going to be 30, 40% type of drop offs, and then that's when you get funny results.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Herring's coming off quite a contentious DQ win over Jonathan Oquendo, where a lot of people kind of felt like he bottled it and kind of like wanted a way out. He got cut from a headbutt and kind of said, "Yeah, I don't want to fight anymore. I've got a bad cut." I think the thing that stands out for me, T, is the size difference. Jamel Herring is 5'10", and
that's mental.
Carl Frampton is listed as 5'5", but I don't think he's a centimetre over 5'3".
Charles Barkley's style, isn't it? 6'6" and he's 6'4". It's a weird one. Carl Frampton is maybe he's looking at the Chocolatito arc where he lost the fight and we thought all was done. Then he had a bit of a renaissance, so to speak. Maybe Frampton's looking at that, thinking, maybe I'll lose to Warrington, and maybe there's still a little bit left in my career, and this is the last dregs he's going to get from it, and he's going to leave it all in the ring. He's talked about retirement, which I know you're not a fan of before a fight. It'll be intriguing. They both got great stories. They're both almost like every man type thing. The McGuigan thing probably had a bit of an effect on Carl Frampton to a degree because that team was very close and very intense, and the partnership between McGuigan and the fighters, Shane, that is not the old man, always very intense. And for that to go, that's got to have some lasting effect on Frampton. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, Herring seems to be someone who fights at the level of his opponents, and maybe that will help Frampton a bit. And it's in neutral territory in Dubai, so it's a tough fight to call.
I think it is quite tough to call, and I think Frampton's always been quite good at, even though he's usually the smaller man, he usually gets his jab going. Like, he's got really good jab for someone that's really quite short. He's got really, really good jab. But my concern is that I think maybe the size is just a bit too much here. And Carl Frampton was a decent pop at super bantam, good puncher at super bantam. I never felt he was a featherweight, but he was a big super bantam. He was kind of in the middle there, and now he's a super feather. I think he might just be one division too much, Al. I don't know.
Like when I say I'm confident, I meant I was confident in a Frampton performance. Whether it would be enough or not because of the size difference and the type of, as T says, with Herring kind of goes up and down in terms of who he's fighting. But if Carl Frampton is at the level that we hope that he is at, then he has a very, then he'll be thereabouts. But I honestly don't know. Like I said, I mean, your head says that again, size difference and that Herring will probably have enough to kind of do it over the course of the 12 rounds. But it might be, like I said, Frampton's talked about retirement. Go all out. Maybe we'll see something completely different from him. In the last 3-4 rounds. Who knows? Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I feel like with Carl Frampton, it's kind of a bit of a bitter, sweet ending to what has been, a very, fantastic career. It would have been nice for him to have a final fight send off, almost Anthony Crolla type kind of final fight, which he loses, but still wins in front of his home crowd. But hey, such is life at the minute.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I kind of get the feeling that Frampton just wanted to do one more big thing, i.e., win a world title at a third weight division before kind of going. And Herring was probably perhaps the most gettable champion. I think Valdez or Burchelt would have done horrible things to him, but I think Herring he perhaps looks at as a winnable fight. We did get a question just before I let you go, Al. I know you're hungry, so I'm gonna let you go, but quickly.
Yeah, I've done my road work this morning. I've done my weights. Come on.
Yeah. Who's the best trainer in Britain?
Ooh. I've got a soft spot for Tony Sims because I feel he takes certain fighters early in the career and they're always in brilliant condition. I mean, we saw obviously with Cheeseman and we've seen with others that, they're always like the basic disciplines of boxing are always done so well. I think Shane McQuiggan is difficult to look back. Again, another, what he's done with Oconee, what he's done with George Groves, what he's done with, Luke Campbell. There's been marked improvements and stuff. It's not necessarily always about taking someone from the bottom to the top. And then, you have others that you don't really see as much on the professional stage, in the corners because obviously their priorities lie elsewhere within the sport, in terms of the guys that are working with the GB squad and on the more amateur side of things, like Rob McCracken and and people like that. And then Dave Caldwell, I think, is a very good tactician. And again, with the right fighters, it works. I think we've got some really, really good trainers in this country. Yeah, in the ones that we are seeing probably the more of. I would say, if we were going to have a trainer of the year, I'd put money. I'd probably hedge a bet that I think Shane McQuiggan will be thereabouts in the year. I just think there's some headlines to be written with some of the guys that he's with at the minute.
What do you think, T?
Yeah, Shane McQuiggan is that guy. Especially the difference of Okolie, because Okolie was someone who had the fight at Matt Yaskin, which was dull, Chamberlain dull, and there's a lot of doubters, and now it looks like he can clean the division out with the tutelage of Shane McQuiggan. Someone who have not mentioned, an old favourite of the pod, is Adam Booth. Not a good time for him at the moment. His fighters, but I've always loved Adam Booth. McCracken is someone who's I've always admired in AJ's corner. Always gives clear instructions and is very, very unassuming. I mean, McGuigan easily would win the Trainer of the Year competition in the UK comfortably, but I think McCracken, Booth, and McGuigan are probably my three personal favourites at the moment.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I would say dark horse Ben Davison. He has not lost a fight as a trainer in a long time, and when he first got the Fury gig, I kind of just thought he was a bit of a PE teacher. I just thought he's kind of winged it. And then he got Billy Joe Saunders, and I thought the same thing. But Lee McGregor, he's done a good job with Lee McGregor. One of his fighters also won the British title on the Josh Warrington card, who I can't remember who that was. And I think he is a good dark horse, Ben Davison. I underestimated him. Is he Lee Wood's trainer? I think he's Lee Wood's trainer. And I think, Davison. I think Davison's a good shout, but I'd agree with you guys. I think McGuigan's probably the man. Right?
I think we've got a nice balance of like that kind of old guard, Mark Tibbs, is another one, and people such as that, and then you've got people like, Shane McQuiggan and Davison and Caldwell, and there are, and more fighters are turning to it. Jamie Moore, is there's been a lot of nice things said about Jamie Moore and what he's done for certain fighters as well. So it's I think we're in good shape trainer wise. Yeah,
I think you're right. And that was our old mate Colin Howe, who sent us that question. So thank you for that, mate. He always sends us good questions every single time. All right, that'll do. Thanks, chaps. I appreciate your time.
Cool. Okay.
Hungry.
Go eat. Later.
Cheers, boys.
All right,
hey guys.
Bye. Let's do my thing.